So let's look at the Chinese economy here. For comparison, the Greek villager is kind of like the standard villager in ancient mythology. And let's first look at the gold gather rate of the Greek villager without any economic upgrades 0.85. And now a Chinese peasant has a meager 0.68. So that is 20% lower than the Greek villager. So the Chinese economy, you might probably say, is really struggling compared to the Greek economy. At least that is the case if there are no Kuafu in the mix. Because look at this chunky big boy here. He gets 2.55 gold per second. So 0.85, 2.25. I don't even know the calculations here, but this guy is so much better than a peasant at getting gold. And basically, what this means is when you play China, if you are relying entirely on peasants, you are setting yourself up for failure. Your economy is going to be so weak compared to your opponents. You definitely need these Kuafu in the mix. And the issue is the Kuafu costs 17 favor. So you have to figure out how do I get the Kuafu in my economy while still getting the bonuses that you need when you're playing Age of Mythology from your minor gods, from your major gods, all the technologies, the myth units, the recasts of god power, right? So much you want to spend favor on. But the big thing to notice here is you cannot rely just on peasants because they're so bad compared to ordinary villagers. So you do need these things in order to keep up in economy. Look at the wood gather rates just for comparison. Greeks at 1 per second, peasants are at 0.8, so there's the 20% for you. If you didn't believe it before, surely now you will. And once again, the Kuafu is at 3. So the Kuafu is 3 times as effective as the Greek villager, and 0.8, that is 24. It's almost 4 times as effective as a peasant. And the Kuafu takes 30 seconds to train, a peasant takes 15 seconds, and it's the same with the Greek villager. So it takes twice as long to train the Kuafu, but it is almost 4 times as effective as a villager, or as a peasant, I'm sorry. So you definitely see my point here. You need to get these units out. It is essential. If your strategy relies on spending a lot of favor in the early classical age and continuing to produce myth units and recasting god powers, whatever it is, you're doing something wrong because you need to mix these Kuafu in. Oh, and I should also say, the Kuafu excels at gold and wood. And if we look at deer hunting, you'll notice the peasant has a 0.8 second gather rate, the Kuafu has a 1.5 second gather rate. So once again, the Kuafu is almost twice as effective as the peasant, but compare that to being almost 4 times as effective on the tree chunk, right? You want to place the Kuafus on wood or gold, and then you want to use peasants for food predominantly, and then with whichever excess peasants you've got out in the field, you want to use them for gold or wood. Okay, let's look at these two scenarios here. Over on the left side, we've got a Greek advancing at 4 minutes. That means they have 4 starting villagers and they build an additional 12 villagers. Over on the right side, we've got a Chinese also advancing at 4 minutes, and they've only built peasants, so they have the 2 starting peasants plus the Kuafu, and then once again an additional 12 peasants, just like the Greeks. And I want to demonstrate why the Kuafu is so important. So if we look at the Greek food gather rate, they've got 6 on food. That equals 6 food per second. On gold, they've got 5 on gold, and that equals 4.25 gold. They have 4 villagers on wood, very easy, that equals 4 wood, and then they have one villager on prayer duty, because you need that when you're playing Greek. The Chinese have 5 peasants on wood, and that also equals 4 wood per second. They've got 7 peasants on food, and that equals 5.4 food per second. So the 7 peasants are gathering less than the 6 villagers. Over on gold, and this is where it becomes interesting, 2 peasants on gold miners, they have 0.68 times 2, and then you gotta plus it with the 2.55 of the Kuafu, and that gives 3.91. And let's compare that to if we build a Kuafu, an additional Kuafu, and then delete 2 peasants instead. Now, what's going to happen is that the Chinese economy, instead of being inferior to the Greek one, it's actually going to be better than the Greek one. So it's the exact same scenario as before, except now we got 2 Kuafu on gold, and we don't have any peasants on gold. So instead of having 3.91 gold gather rate, now we have 5.1. And that's a significant amount. That's a significant boost to our economy. And it's actually enough that before, when we only had 1 Kuafu, our economy was worse than the Greek. Now with 2 Kuafu, instead it's better than the Greek. So I hope you understand now why you need these Kuafu in your army, in your economy. So with all that in mind, here is my Fushi 330-minute advance with 2, what are they called? Kuafu out. It's really hard in the beginning. There's so much you gotta do, at least with Fushi, right? You gotta place your god power, you gotta send these villagers to the right spot, and you need to start scouting as well. But I think I've got the hang of it at this point. You want to send your Kuafu on a gold mine, because as we discussed, it's better to place them on gold and wood, and then your peasants can do the food gathering instead. Such a nice aesthetic to the Chinese civ here. Love the scouting pattern, I love the music. And all in all, I think this Chinese civilization is going to be so much fun exploring. What we're doing here is we're just sending our peasants onto food, as we discussed, and the Kuafu is getting enough gold that we sit on 250 gold. Reason being, a new Kuafu costs 50 food and 100 gold, so you probably guessed it, we need a temple and we need an additional Kuafu, nothing more. So that's what we're waiting for now. 10 gold, and then we're going to build this thing here. Also, you need to try to always build your buildings so that you expand your favorite land. I think that's pretty essential to playing China. 7 villagers, 7 peasants on food, that'll be enough. Now we just start sending on to wood. And we should also just auto-queue the Kuafu, because as soon as we can afford him, we do want him. And that means after this villager, actually. You can auto-queue the Kuafu as soon as the game starts, because what's holding us back is favor. Wow, I don't know what happened here, but it's kind of weird how the giraffe died there. I think we'll be alright though. So now we can afford a temple, so we'll build that here. Shift click onto... Actually, shift click onto gold. May have to force drop here. And we go through Chiyu here. At this point, I think the most standard thing to do is to place most of your economy on wood and gold. But we're now, you know, I think we're pretty well set for some early aggression here in the Classical Age. It's a pretty difficult build order to pull off, I must admit. This giraffe being a bit weird threw us a bit back, but usually I think what you want to do is you want to get 2 of these out, get the upgrade for the extra range, plus the ability to pick up relics if we see anything good. Stop the auto queue on the Kuafu now. We're getting these 2 out, we're getting this upgrade. Since we're Fushi, we research this extremely quickly. There you have it, 330 advance, and now we'll make a new wolf. And we can auto-queue, or pre-queue the Son of Loom technology. I think this is so oppressive. I think the Chinese rush, right, like you see it like right here, I think it's gonna be super good. And It's a question of what you want to do here, obviously, but I can imagine you would want to maybe grab a second TC here. Like, we've got the 2 wolves out now, we have the 3 heroes as well. And we're just preparing ourselves to get a town center now. You can do all kinds of stuff, obviously. But I'll show you why we're doing this, by the way. These wolves are extremely good. Very, very, very strong. Look at this. They're so good. The special attack is bonkers. Just killed 3 villagers there in a matter of, what was it, like 4 seconds? 2 units, hello? Now, we are going to grab ourselves a town center. We can send our 2 Kuafus to do that. And it's probably around the time when we need to start sitting back in our base now. We don't need much wood anymore, so send these guys on berries instead. And these guys can go over to the zebras here. She's continually raid with the wolves, by the way. But yeah, I think this is a super clean build order for Fushi. You're gonna be able to assert so much pressure with your army here. I'm against an AI and they're cheating, so they have a lot of army early on. See this? A normal player will never have this much. Dude, I love these dogs. They're so strong. Yeah, there's the town center. So, not only do we assert a lot of pressure on our opponent, we'll also start booming behind it. And I think something I would probably do a lot of the time with Fushi is I will look to go heroic and get a fortress up with this god power. Maybe on my second gold mine, and then even then I can transition to mythic, who knows. But yeah, really nice early game start with Fushi. I think it works for Shenong and Niwa as well to some degree. You can tell me if you like this. Yeah, thanks for watching.